So guys, today Dokkan revealed that the LSSJ BROLY will be getting an EZA. The translations are supplied by Goresh, so I will leave his link down in the description down below. But let's get straight into this. So on 12 key, this is pre-transformation. He will raise attack by 30% for one turn, cause cloth damage and greatly lower enemies' defense. On 18 key, will stack attack by 50%. Greatly raise defense by 50% for one turn, cause cloth damage and massively lower enemies defense. Start of turn will have key +3, attack and defense +200%, gain an additional attack and defense +120 when performing a super attack, plus an additional attack and defense +120 if it's an ultra super attack, gain an additional attack +50% when attacking an enemy who's in attack down or defense down status, gain key +3, launch an additional attack, does a 50% chance to become a super attack when facing one enemy, gain key +5, launch an additional super attack when facing 2 or more enemies, transform when conditions are met. Now pre-transformation, he's not the strongest defensively, but I kind of expect that on a lot of units that you need to wait to transform. One thing that is for certain with this BROLY is he's doing a lot of damage from the get-go. You know, you're starting with 200% attack and defense, he gains another 120 on super, gains another 120 if it's an 18 key super, gains another 50 when attacking an enemy who's debuffed, which you won't be able to get all the time, but 50% isn't too much. I mean, he's already getting a ton of additional attack as it is, or attack and defense. But then also, we've seen a lot more stages recently in difficult content where you can actually debuff enemies. It might not be in every phase, and it might be one or the other, but there have been a few more recently, so we might see that a little bit more often. Then when facing one enemy, he gets an extra key +3 and a 50% chance of an additional super. So while he's not supering like 4 million times in one turn, that's 2 pre-dupe system, and also an extra key +3 on top of the key +3 he already starts with at the turn. It's going to be a lot easier to get his 18 key super, especially when you consider how easy it is going to be linking him to the likes of Carnival BROLY, EZA Int BROLY. I'm pretty sure he says the same name as the 9th anniversary one, but once either of them or both of them are transformed, you're good. And also he immediately has a slot 1 unit with Carnival BROLY, especially if you're running dual leads. That's 2 slot 1 units already locked in. This guy in slot 2, 9th anniversary BROLY on the following rotation. Another unit that can benefit from all the support that are on these categories. EZA Team Turles, EZA BROLY Chile and Lemo, Kid Buu on some other categories. Not only that as well, benefits from 9th anniversary BROLY Domain. And then just to put the cherry on top, also benefits from being on the planetary destruction category, which of course helps out EZA Team Turles actually having decent units that can also supply him with his damage reduction. That's another unit that buffs that category heavily. But moving on, once he transforms on 12 key, will raise attack and defense by 30% for one turn, cause cloth damage and greatly lowers enemies' defense. On 18 key, will greatly raise attack and defense by 50% for one turn, cause cloth damage and massively lower enemies' defense. Starts the turn with key +4, attack and defense +220%, gains an additional attack and defense +120, and performs an additional attack that has a 50% chance to become a super attack when performing a super attack. So that's literally easy. You automatically get a 50% chance of an additional super just by supering, which is pretty much guaranteed. I say pretty much, it is guaranteed. So this will always have a chance to pop before the additionals, or coming from his passive if there is more, or the dupe system. Then gains an additional attack +166% and guard activated against all attacks, and extreme class allies chance to perform a critical hit +6% for 2 turns if it is an ultra super attack. So he also has guard, which is huge, which is also, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's almost guaranteed, because all you have to do is get an 18 key super. Again, you have a domain, you have a ton of support, it's so easy to link him. Starts with key +4, also gains an additional key I see in his passive for facing one enemy, which you do 95% of the time, so that's automatically key +8. You're pretty much going to have his guard activated all times. And then not only that, he's given extreme class allies an extra 6% chance to crit. And he's surrounded by some very good damage dealers, so that's actually a lot more handy than it seems on first glance. But more importantly, he's always going to have that guard active, which is huge at helping him out in difficult content. Like, he's going to be doing a ton of damage, getting a decent amount of extra defense, and when he's transformed, has guard. He'll then gain an additional attack +100% when attacking an enemy who's in attack down or defense down status, which again, there isn't too many enemies you can debuff, but we have seen it a little bit more frequently recently, so hopefully that continues. As I said, does gain ki +4 and launches an additional attack that has a 70% chance of becoming a super attack when facing one enemy, which you're doing 95% of the time. And then gains ki +6 and has a guaranteed additional when facing 2 or more enemies, which again, you're not facing 2 or more enemies that often. I mean, maybe in the difficult stages, you may face them in like a phase or two, but not the most difficult part. And then by this point, he stops stacking and he doesn't stack on 12 ki pre-transformation anyway, so it'll just be some extra damage. So it can help out here and there, but it won't be consistent. Overall, TEQ LR Broly's looking very strong. I mean, pre-transformation, he looks a little bit open, can be quite vulnerable just because he doesn't have his guard yet. However, does look very strong even before he transforms, and you can stack him. The one thing though is you're not going to be able to stack him to your heart's content, which, I mean, considering how difficult the content is and you probably want his guard ASAP, I don't think that really matters too much because his transformation isn't an active skill. I think it just hits turn 4 and he'll transform. So you'll only be able to stack him up for 2 turns. And then the rest of the stats just obviously come from skill orbs, dupes, etc, etc. But he still looks like he can do a ton of damage pre-transformation. Gets a decent amount of defense pre-transformation, but again, I think he's still quite open just because of how difficult and how hard enemies hit nowadays, and you're kind of just relying on sheer defense. However, when he's transformed, ton of extra defense, especially if you get any additionals. Ton of extra damage on top of what he's already doing. Guard, which, I mean, considering how much ki he's getting from his passive, then from the support, then eventually a domain. Constantly getting 18 ki means that guaranteed guard is always going to be active, even though it's for 2 turns. I don't think you'll hardly ever struggle to get an 18 ki super with him unless you get really unlucky with, say, early rotations or placement, but even then I think it would be a struggle to not get it. As I said, already doing a ton of damage. He links really well with the Carnival or Broly, or will. Already has the rotation set up for him, can work well with the 9th anniversary Broly if you run him on his lead instead and have 2 and then 1's floating and then 1 on the opposite rotation, say if you want to do that. But all Carnival or Brolys, that in slot 1, him in slot 2, Carnival or Broly or the friend one on the 2nd rotation, and then 9th anniversary Broly on that 2nd rotation as well. As I said, he benefits from his domain, good linking partner already, tons of support on the team, can get a decent amount of defense from the super attacks and all the extra additionals, can do a ton of damage, has guard. He's got a lot of stuff going for him. But he's looking very good, and I cannot wait to try him out when he drops. This is what Int Broly should have been, or not essentially the same in terms of details, but I mean in terms of hype and how good he looks. But he looks really good. I said I can't wait to try him out. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, have a great day, and post.